Welcome to episode 47 of Discourse in Magic with David Malek. Now, if you don't know who David Malek is, let me give you a quick throwdown as to who he is. Picture the most difficult card magic move that you can't do. Okay, David can do it, but it's not his most interesting quality. What? That's right. David is an amazing magician. His card skills are rival almost none. He's punching in right up at the top. But the most interesting thing about him is how entertaining he is for his audiences. His audiences care about what he's saying because it's so fun and funny and interesting. And the magic being perfect and knuckle busting is just a bonus. So if that sounds awesome to you and you want to learn about having your own shtick, being entertaining, and the entertainment value of your tricks, this is the episode for you. And here it is, David Malek. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah.
My name is Tyler.
And we are here with the amazing and the very exciting David Malek. How are you, David?
I'm well, thanks.
Good to hear. We've been having some audio troubles, but I'm glad that we are back and on it. For a little bit of background, I met David a couple months ago at the Michigan Magic Convention, the Motor City Magic Convention, and I watched him whip up a room of magicians, which is particularly difficult to do, and I think that it speaks wonders to his entertainment, which I think is going to be a lot about what we talk about today. But before we do, let's, as usual, dive in. David, how did you get into magic?
Well, that's a very, very long story, as I've told you a little bit about it. But I was going to college in New York, and we used to play poker. And I never really particularly cared for magic. Essentially, I thought it was a waste of your time. You find your guy picks a card, you put it back in, and okay, fantastic.
Just to find it.
How are we going to make some money? And so we were playing poker, and I knew how to do one card trick, and my roommate got tired of seeing the same card trick. So his brother had purchased a book called Magic with Cards by Garcia and Schindler off of the television set. I guess they had an infomercial back then. Remember TV magic cards and all that sort of thing. Yeah. And so he brought, because I couldn't go home on the weekends, he brought up the book so that I could read it. Mm-hmm. And so I began doing different card tricks. I'd learn a new card trick every day. In fact, I had come up with some of what is going on today with the card juggling. I would throw half the deck in the air and catch it in the other hand and then shuffle it, which was a serious, in the 80s, a precursor to
cardistry before it was cool.
To what we have today.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so part of the entertainment that comes to these schools that are out in the middle of nowhere is they bring in entertainment, and Darwin Ortiz ended up coming and entertaining, and he had his casino night, and so we went and saw that, and I was learning a little something about how to do card manipulation, and I asked him about how to do a Zero shuffle and how to riffle stack, and
I'm sure that was game changing.
It was, it wasn't game changing at that time. See, the thing is, I didn't realize how difficult riffle stacking and doing a zero.
Absolutely.
Everyone thinks that the Zero shuffle is very easy to do in relation to the push through or the strip out shuffle, when in reality the strip out, push through, and the Zero are all equally difficult to do well, but it is particularly easy to do the Zero shuffle badly.
Poorly, yeah.
But it seems as if it's an easy shuffle to do, and that's why everybody gravitates towards it. But they're all equally difficult to do well, and in particular the Zero shuffle, because the best information on the Zero shuffle has yet to be released, believe it or not. And with all of the internet theft and stuff like that that's going on, I don't think that when you can just get a file, when some of these lectures are downloaded and they're passed around like candy at Halloween, essentially. The better performers and the people that are in possession of the what quote unquote superior knowledge on the subject are just not going to be talking about it.
I think it's not. I just think that we need to evolve with the times, and whatever that means. And it's always, we're always chasing behind, right? So maybe, a couple years ago, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, the whole talk was like, is it okay to expose magic on the internet? And now everyone's forgotten about that talk. Because
it's happened.
It's happened. You can Google where to find a double lift. You can find a pass on the internet. Now the question has become, should the people who are teaching what they're teaching on the internet be the ones teaching it? And I think that that's a maturity. And what comes from that is people who are qualified to put their hand in the air and say, like, I volunteer as tribute, to be the online teacher who maybe help spread this information, and whether it ends up being on YouTube or on some other thing like a Murphy's lecture or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I was never upset that anybody taught magic online, and I'm still not.
Good.
And I'm not upset about anybody exposing magic at all. After all, how did you get turned on to magic?
Right.
That's always been my thing. Where was I? I did a lecture in Sydney, Australia, in the early 2001, I think, and I was with Leonard Green on the stage, and also Magic Christian out and out said, who taught you guys? Why are you so privy to hold on to information? How did you belly up to the bar and get your information? Someone exposed it to you. So who are you to be the keeper of all the secrets?
When people ask me, they're like, don't magicians never share their secrets? I always say, how would there still be magicians?
Right, exactly.
I always think that's it's a good little, how are there still magicians if nobody explained how they did it? We're not all starting fresh.
I had a layperson say the opposite of that to me at the party. It was like, he was asking me, how do you do that? How do you do that? And then his wife was like, honey, a magician never reveals his secrets. And he was like, how the fuck did he learn? And I just thought that was such a good response.
Right. No, that's a guy thinking, how did somebody must have taught you? You know what I always say in that situation? I say, I understand that maybe, you're uncomfortable, and that's because you're used to being in control, and magic makes you feel as if you are not in control, or that you don't know. And you further tell them you're a very logical thinker, and magic is an illogical way of thinking. I am showing you, and it's happening in your own mind. What you think is happening is not what's really happening. And so that's what creates the magic. For me, it's normal. For you, it's something a little bit different. And so that seems to smooth it out for those people that don't particularly like magic. I said, just, lay back and enjoy, and look at it as an entertainment form rather than me trying to pull one over on you. And so that's where, when you are entertaining, you can basically do magic for the greatest variety of people, and they will appreciate you not only for your sleight of hand, but for making them laugh or amazing them at the same time. And I run into this all the time. You deal with corporate executives in the world, and you have to entertain. Otherwise, if it seems as if it's a competition between you and the guy that's paying you, the guy that's paying you is always going to win. You'll never come back.
Right. Yeah. That's one of the things I actually wanted to ask you about, because I watched some footage of you performing. I've never had the pleasure of seeing it live, but I've watched some footage, and you have a sort of edgy character where you're being very playful with your audience members, but you always, even though you are the magician who wins the game, you always sort of make it fun for everybody involved and get the whole room on everybody's side.
So what you have to do, in my opinion, is you have to make it so outrageous that they don't care if they lose. They can't wait to lose again to see what else you're going to say. Right? So it doesn't become I win, you lose. It's I win, but why do I win? I win because I'm the king. In fact, mosquitoes refuse to bite me purely out of respect. Right? That is outrageous.
Yeah.
We all know that's not true, right? That mosquitoes are going to, right? So then you say, you know what? In fact, a woman said to me last night, she said, Your Majesty, I'm having a sale in my bedroom tonight, and all my clothes are 100% off. Hey, it's good to be the king, right? So you give them that shtick, and they can't help but laugh. And now the guy loses again, and you look at the other guy and you say, well, do you know why I won that hand? And he finally realized, yeah, because you're the king. Mm-hmm. Exactly. In fact, the police stopped me last week for speeding. Cop ended up giving himself the ticket. Right?
So it seems like
then you launch into some other line, like, in fact, when I'm in Rome, the Romans do as I do. Whatever it happens to be. A woman said to me last night, Your Majesty, if you were to hold up 11 roses and look in the mirror, you'd be looking at a dozen of the most beautiful things in the world. Hey, it's good to be the king, right? Stuff like that. So now it becomes this whole shtick, and at the end, who cares? Who cares if the guy wins or loses?
Right. So it's the ridiculousness that validates the cockiness in itself. It's the fact that this isn't it's obviously not your real character, because that would just be absurd.
Correct. Right. So it's called entertainment. Mm-hmm. And I think that as magicians in general, okay, we fall short as a magic population in the entertainment aspect of it. Okay? Why? Because number one, there's a lot going on. People are thinking about, okay, I got to have a card selected, and then I got to do this, and I hope they don't catch the palm, and oh my God, what's going to happen here, and then or they just copy the same standard pattern that they see 100%. On the magic video or on YouTube or whatever that has been, and now the ace, and if I just do like this, the ace turns over, or I handed the cards to a guy once and he took them. And instead of just shuffling them like I asked, he turned them face up and shuffled them into the face down cards just like this, and it was a big old mess, right? That's engaging.
Back. Oh God.
I can't wait to see that presentation again. But the biggest problem is not that. That's problem number one. Problem number two is that people don't want to be creative and be themselves. And I'll give you a great example right out of the same convention that you were at, all right? So somebody comes up to me, again, will remain nameless, and says, can you help me come up with my own shtick for the 10-card poker deal? And I go, yeah, come up with 10 different ideas. So this person came up with 10 excellent ideas, believe it or not. Well, not all of them were excellent, but there were a few in there that I was like, wow, that's brilliant. Mm-hmm. All right? So very good. So back and forth on email, and now this person said, I said, this is great. They said, okay, I'll start scripting. All right, so they sent me a PDF script of the entire routine after 2 days that they had constructed. So I'm reading the PDF script, and I read, and I see, one of my lines is there, okay? But the thing is, one of my lines is there, but in the wrong place. And I remember in the show that I had said to myself, no, that's the wrong place to have put this line, right? Right? And so I wrote the person back on email. I said, by the way, did you happen to tape my performance at the convention? And they go, yeah, I did. I taped your lecture. I taped your entire
like, wow, how did I know?
Both of your performances, right? I said, well, and so that was the end of the discourse or back and forth with the email. We have not emailed back and forth again. Now, I've gone to the point of telling this person to be original, to think of ideas, and then now script them into something. When they turn around, they took little other elements. Unknowingly, they put my exact same line in the exact place that I did, which is the wrong place, right. All right? And that tells me that they've copied me, all right? So why would you go 70% of the way and then copy me, or 60% of the way or whatever, and then copy the rest? Right? I've given you the blueprint of how to do it. Why use my lines?
Right.
You don't cheat me.
It's a fear,
you cheat yourself.
I mean, I don't know. I guess it's different for everybody, but I feel there's a lot of, especially young magicians who are so afraid. They see people perform something and they see the reaction that they want for their own performance, and they're so afraid that their own character isn't good enough to get that reaction.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got to be yourself. You only have one person to be, and that's you. And if you try to be someone else constantly, like I see it with sleight of hand, everybody wants to be Steve Forte. They copy all of the sleight of hand maneuver. I've known Steve Forte since the early 1990s, and we would session all the time. And I always, in fact, I just had breakfast with him, and I said, I tell people, don't try to be Steve Forte, because you're never gonna be Steve Forte. Right? Don't try to be David Malek. You will never be me. You will never be Martin Nash. You will never be Darwin Ortiz. You will never be anybody but you. It's so funny. You see these guys that learn, for example, from Stevie's videos. They do a couple of moves, and then they go to something that they've learned from somebody else, and it's a complete disconnect. Mm-hmm. They don't have their own style. It's like going from A+ to
It's like
B-,
changing the channel
right?
on a TV.
Exactly. Or you'll see people do, let's say there's 3 different tricks that they've learned from various people. They'll do it and they'll sound and do all the mannerisms of the one person.
Right.
Then they'll do another trick, and it's as if they've changed their persona.
Yeah, it's like they ate them.
Exactly. And then they go to the next trick, and it's somebody else. I believe that you have to work on you first. Who are you? What is your... how is it? What's your character?
So let's dive into that. So
right.
Let's say somebody is, they've let's say all that we've just said has resonated with them. So they've said like, yeah, look, you're probably right. I know a lot of tricks, but I'm not very entertaining. I realize now that I'm just made up of all of the people who I've studied. How do I find my shtick? How do I have something that's special? So what would you advise to those people?
I would say that it's a catch-22. All of these things are experiential. Where do you think I get all these lines? Like, for example, not for example, I'm out performing, and I'm performing almost every night. You'll get these lines from the audience, or you'll think of something funny. And the more you do that, the more you're out there performing, and the more that you stick with 5 or 6 tricks. Don't learn any more. You pick your 5 that you want, and that's all you do. And you do them so well that you know them like the back of your hand, and that's when you begin learning how to entertain. Okay? Because you keep doing that, you'll get different feedback from the audience, and then they'll give you lines and more lines and more lines, and that's how you sort of build all these little nooks and crannies and comebacks and jabs into the performance. You can't do that if you're going from one piece of material to the next piece of material to the next piece of material.
So that's already an incredible piece of advice, right? So it's just to say, like, have your effect, make your script, and just do it. Just buckle down and do it for long enough that you're able to like actually have some brain function while you're on stage outside of just making sure that you execute all the things and say all the words. And it's in those moments that you're going to help finding your creativity by listening to what other people say and stuff like that. But you need to be not falling over your face and your fingers to be able to say and do the stuff that you were planning.
Right. So ultimately, the other thing that can help you is taking an acting class. Without going into all of that, because I've done that extensively as well, all right, I don't think, they talk about, magic and the fourth wall. Let's get all that out of the way. There is no fourth wall in magic. Mm-hmm. Finished. When you make it look, to the audience, when you perform for an audience, there is no fourth wall. You are a performer, not an actor. If you're back, you can't perform with your back to the audience, right, but you can act with your back to the audience. That's for sure. So take a piece out of like American Idol, or I don't know if they have Canadian Idol, yeah, or if they have or just look at acting in general. How is it that Shakespeare can be done over and over and over again? They're the exact same lines, but these people that are actors, the good actors, put their own special stamp on it. It's Hamlet with Laurence Olivier. right? But it's not, or it's King Richard, Richard III with Al Pacino, right? Which is, beautiful, right? But could there be a bigger difference between Laurence Olivier doing Richard III and Al Pacino doing Richard III? You better believe it. But guess what? They're the exact same words. Now, how is that? It's their manifestation of Richard III that comes through. Or you'll look at American Idol or Canadian Idol or The Voice. How is it that these people sing these exact same songs, but for some reason they end up making these songs their own? That's the art. That's taking it and giving it your own interpretation. So theoretically, you could steal all of my lines, right? Anything that I come up with, right? And perform it. But if you give it your own salt and pepper, you're going to come out as different than me. But essentially what I'm saying is throw that away and focus in on who you are.
Right.
Because everybody knows Hamlet or Richard III, now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this son of York, right? But it's how you approach it that really makes you unique.
Right, and everyone's doing the ambitious card, Everyone's doing Triumph, and there's nothing to say that Invisible Deck isn't one of the most powerful card tricks you can do on a stage. But there is to say that if anybody does the same goddamn presentation one more time about the cards being invisible and you shuffling them and picking one out and turning it over, we can just be better than that. We can be more creative than that. It's not a bad presentation. It's just so overdone that it's like it doesn't even mean anything to any of the people doing it ever. It's not a conscious choice for anybody. It's like they're just doing it.
I would say try to entertain without doing anything. Take a stand-up comedy class.
Yeah.
Or go to an acting workshop of some sort. Tony Giorgio and I used to do that all the time. He was in The Godfather, and we'd do scenes. We'd take scenes and go and practice scenes over and over and over again. We knew all the same lines, but just try to improve a little bit every single time. Now here was a guy that was in 200 TV shows, including and movies, including The Godfather, Magnum Force with Clint Eastwood. Let's see, where else? It goes on and on and on and on. The Bionic Woman, all the way back. Charlie's Angels. Wow. Now, here was somebody that understood, brilliant, won an Emmy for his voice and stuff like that. But here's somebody that was brilliant at acting, knew how to talk, how to take lines off of a piece of paper and say them so that they were meaningful, all right? Without doing any magic. You have two elements. You have the sleight of hand. That needs to be perfected, essentially. You can't think about how am I going to palm a card, and then now worry about your speech and your script and whatever. I don't particularly script anything out, but I just kind of let it come organically. I've come up, in fact, that cutting demonstration that you talked about earlier, I've already come up with this last 2 weeks. I came up with a new piece that I'm going to inject into that when I'm at the Magic Castle later this year.
And when you say a new piece, are you referring to the sort
Shtick.
of entertainment bit or a magic?
Correct. Absolute entertainment. The magic's already there. Look, what is that trick? Give me a number between 1 and 15. Guy goes 7. I cut off 7 cards. They count down 7 cards. I said, now give me a number between 10 and 30. Guy goes 24. I cut 24 cards. We cut 24 cards. I said, now give me a number between 1 and 52. Guy goes 34. I cut off 34 cards. We count. There's 34 cards. Nothing could be more boring. Right?
On paper, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the effect,
right.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
He cuts cards. You tell him 7, he goes like this. There's 7 cards. He counts down 7 cards. Okay, what's new? How do we take that trash, right, and now make it entertaining? Here's a card. I put it on. It comes to the top of the deck. I put it in the middle, and look, it comes back to the top. Okay, I don't care. So what? That's nothing. That's trash. Right? Oh, and the little, and we do the double, and then we do the dubiator fisteris and the teetering with the dreck and the farcher subtlety, and then we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and this is
and
art.
Nobody cares.
Right?
Nobody gives a shit.
Meanwhile, everyone's asleep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the card keeps coming to the top. Tell me something I don't know.
But it's true. It's true, and it's all about. And I'm so glad that we took that moment, because I knew when you said, you're like, there's a new part that I want to add, and like no magician ever means when they say there's a new part that I want to add that there's a new bit that they think is fun and compelling. Never. That's never ever what they mean. What they always mean is they're gonna do a 14th phase to the routine, or that they're gonna do, I don't know, something. So it's such a breath of fresh air that you're like, yeah, the effect is there. It's done. I'm already gonna do it. I'm gonna lift the cards. That's it. I'm more interested in what more I can give these people that's entertaining.
Oh yeah. Well, wait. There's 3 new bits in just that one routine. Okay, believe it or not, and they are. I mean, forget it. People are going to be on the floor. All right. So I think that inspiration will come from a lot of different areas of other forms of entertainment. Don't look to magic for inspiration. I look to music a lot. In fact, 2 of the bits that are going to be in this new thing come directly from a song.
Huh.
Wow.
You never know. But I'm taking a song that Bruno Mars sings. And I'm taking lines out of that song, turning them around, and using them in this particular routine.
Awesome.
And then there's another bit that I've made up myself. It's funny. Let me tell you, it's the shizzle.
The cat's meow.
I can't wait to get out there and do it. And the only place that I can do it is at the castle. Or at a convention thing but this stuff just comes to me. And the more you do it, and the more you're out there entertaining, and the more you push the envelope to say, I'm not going to learn. Now, I have 7 or 8 different 20-minute shows with card tricks. Okay, so I'm not at a loss for material. I have so much material that I never get to even do 90% of the tricks that I can do perfectly. Okay, I got 3 different gambling acts. I've got 4 other things plus a stage show that's about an hour and 20 minutes long that I actually have to cut material out of. All right, and so what I'm saying is, but I've been doing this for a long, long time.
Right.
Find 5 tricks. Start with just 1. Do it over and over and over again and with your script until you are tired of it. When you're tired of it and you can't stand it anymore, that's when you begin learning.
Mm-hmm. When you can snap back into reality and realize that you were in execute mode. Like when your mind can wander onto something else while you're performing your bit, it means that you've got it rote enough, that you.
That's when you this way you create, like for example, Stanislavski, the father of modern method acting. Okay, he talked about, so let's say you're on stage and now you want to improv. All right, go ahead, improv. There's no foundation for you to improv. Okay. You can be more creative with foundation than you can without foundation. Without foundation, you have chaos.
Of course.
But with a foundation, you now have certain little areas you can latch onto that will give you support, but that will also free you to become creative. So, for example, let's just go back to the ambitious card routine, all right? Mind changes constantly. All right. So, for example, I'll say to somebody, "Here's a new bit that's been developed in the last couple of months." They'll take a card, put it back in. Now I can find your card the easy way or the hard way. Which way do you choose? Now, most people say the hard way. So I do a double, and I said, "Is the 5 of clubs your card?" No. Well, 51 more to go. You chose the hard way, right? Or if they say the easy way, I say, "Okay. Well, what was your card?" They'll go 5 of diamonds. Well, that was easy, and it makes them laugh, right? Of course, I have control over the 5 of diamonds, and then we produce it and go into the act or go into the routine. But that came out of me being tired of doing it the other way that I was doing it, looking for another way. But I could have never looked for another way if I didn't already have one way that worked perfectly for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? One of the things that we learned in one of the past months, one of the themes of one of the earlier months was creativity. And something that we really distilled from the month after talking to a lot of different big name guys was that being creative often breaks down to the opposite, to having very serious limitations to where you can create inside, what you can do, what exact problems you're trying to solve, because that's what breeds creativity. Saying like, I can do anything, I can write anything, you have this, the whole world is your oyster, you end up not doing anything. But it's when you've got very little to move. You're already working with a script and you're maybe noticing one more line, and you're replacing one little thing. That often gives you the most creativity.
Correct. Absolutely. Again, back to Hamlet or Richard III or any play. He's the writer. You have to, you dishonor a Shakespeare. Oh, I think I'm going to improv this part, right? I mean, come on.
You're like, maybe don't improv.
Are you crazy? But within that structure, you have freedom to do all kinds of things. You can interpret it any way you want. Mm-hmm. Your character can have a gait. How is Richard III all messed up that he is? How is he going to walk? How is your Richard III going to walk? Is he going to close one eye because he's blinded? Is he going to talk out the side of his mouth? Mm-hmm. What is this guy going to do? So you're constrained, seriously constrained with the script, because those words cannot be changed. Mm-hmm. But so how does an actor or a song? Let's take it a lot easier. How do one of these artists take one song and make it their own? Who was it? I've been watching a lot of George Michael, because that guy was part of the soundtrack to my growing up, right? Mm-hmm. And he did. How can he do "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me" with Elton John? How can he stand there with the guy that just is the icon of that particular song and make it his own? But he did make it his own. Mm-hmm. It's different, right? But it's the same words. And you can see the difference between the two of them and the way that the way they phrase and do everything. You know who was the greatest at that? Was Frank Sinatra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He never sung the same song, My Way, never did it the same way. Never. You could watch him every single time, and there was a different way of doing it, okay? So if guys like that can do it, if they can take their own song and do it differently every single time, then you can too. Or even a no-name entertainer that seems to be a little bit different. Just take one routine, learn it until you're tired of it, and then say, I'm going to throw this part away.
Then you get to have fun, because then the enjoyment comes out of the experimentation and not out of successfully pulling off your routine. Like you should.
Yeah, you already know it's going to work.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the mentality that it's sort of that felt like you had. You're like, I'm adding a new bit to the routine, and you're not talking about the trick. You're like, I'm already confident that the trick is going to start and have a middle and have a successful close. I'm trying to make the juice of it, the meat of it, the part that people are going to remember about me. Like, that's the part I'm trying to spice up.
That's correct. And the other thing, too, is let's say you're doing close-up magic at a restaurant, for example, okay? Knowing everything allows you to interact with the people, because magic is, again, you're not acting. Mm-hmm. You're performing, all right? So you're having interaction with the people. When, a big mistake, a very amateur mistake is asking a question and then answering it yourself without waiting for the person to answer it for you.
Or just not caring what their answer is.
Correct. When I wait there, I said, do you want me, a great example, do you want me to find the card the easy way or the hard way? And I wait for an answer. I don't say, oh, by the way, yeah, most people want the hard way, like a magician would say,
right.
Typical standard, right? Oh, so I'll find it the hard way for you. I mean, it's just ridiculous. People think, well, he doesn't really care about me. He's just doing his shtick. So by having everything totally put away. You can now interact with the person. They're going to ask you questions, and when they ask questions, you can make you can have some funny comebacks, or somebody else will stand there a lot of times and have a funny comeback that you'll remember and you'll use the next time. And that slowly, little by little, it's like mining for diamonds. Coal. Oh, a little diamond. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, when you come out the tunnel, maybe your card has a couple of extra little diamonds in it. Then you go back and you polish those diamonds. Well, what if I said it this way? Stand-up comedy works that way. These people talk about themselves. Study the geniuses of stand-up comedy. George Carlin, the way he looks at the world, right? Mm-hmm. Or Chris Rock. Oh, how easy could that? You stand there, I could do that. Yes. That's when you know the guy's a genius. When you say you could do that, how easy is that? How simple is that? Picasso, with one line that doesn't end, drawing something, right? Yeah. Here, take it, put your pencil down, don't take your pencil off, and draw something, really, really cool. It's simple, just one line, right? But man, is it difficult to do. Mm-hmm. But that's what you have to do. People don't want to slog through the hard work. Very difficult to do. You don't get good at anything by just waiting around to get good. The people that are the best work harder at it than anyone else.
No question. You'll never know someone who's awesome at what they do and that it happened by fluke. Like,
right? Yeah, it doesn't happen.
That's the one thing you know for sure, and I think that enough of a lesson, that just buckling down and doing it, and just to be personal and share. Like, there's a routine right now that I'm working on that I've been performing on stage now for a couple months, and it's not there yet. It's not hitting, but I'm just keep doing it because I think it's a fun routine, and I think I'll get it. Right, and I'm just and it's just hopefully a little bit of motivation for somebody who's maybe trying something and they feel like maybe their script isn't so great yet or whatever. There are other people suffering through their routines not being where they are for a very long time, and I'm basically doing exactly what you've described, which is I'm trying to get so good at that routine, at understanding those moments, that I'm able to add fun, and the routine is. It lends itself, because it's a newspaper routine, it lends itself to current events, so right. The point is that I can get myself a nice routine that I'm able to be playful with current events in it, afterwards, right?
I actually have a newspaper tear that has a lot of comedy as part of it as well. I think that one way that when you're performing on stage is very difficult, because you don't get an opportunity to try these routines out. Mm-hmm. But if you can bring them to a close-up level, like, for example, one of the routines that I perfected was the Magic Square, and I do it as part of a stage show. But I didn't perfect it on stage. I perfected it close up. Mm-hmm. I had a little grid of squares printed up on index cards, and I would just go table to table in a close-up and say, give me a number between whatever, 20 and 100. And I'd write it right down there, and I would fill in the square. So what I was essentially doing was training in a close-up venue. Mm-hmm. All I have to do now is bring it to the stage.
Yeah.
All right? So if you can bring whatever you're doing to the close-up venue and be able to perform it 10, 15, 20, 30 times a night.
That's what I was going to say. It's all about getting in those hours, right? Yeah. It's all about getting in the performances, being able to have done it 100 times for people. Maybe then you might start to understand how it goes.
Right. Yeah. That's why you look at some of these guys that tour the world. Look at some of these guys that have a manip act. Mm-hmm. What's changed with production of cards? I mean, a lot has changed, right? But you could still theoretically go to the Chavez School of Magic, which is excellent. Okay, mm-hmm. Learn classic manipulation, zombie, multiplying billiard balls, mm-hmm. Have the multiplying candles and card manipulation, and have yourself a 15-minute act and basically tour the world. Mm-hmm. And never, ever, well, who knows? We don't know what the future brings, but never theoretically change it, not one bit. Just get so good mm-hmm. at it that you just go in your sleep and do it.
That's what I
And
said
then-
to a friend of mine. She's helped out a couple magicians as an assistant, and I said to her, I was like, you do know that you can, buy some of these big props and cut someone else in half and make your own act. She's a dancer, a choreographer. I said, like, you don't need that crazy of an act to start selling it. You've already come on stage and danced and got in the box and got cut in half. Like, you can be the one, by the way. She was like, wow, I never really thought of that. I was like, yeah, I mean, you're already there, kind of.
Well, look at Lance Burton. When Lance Burton was at the Follies Brazier, okay, he had his standard manip act, his silent act with the birds, beautiful. The best 10 minutes of magic when he was when he was performing. So what did he do at the Follies? He would do that act, and then he would break in an illusion. They would give him a little extra time. He'd do the illusion. He'd do that. I think it was 2 times a night, 6 days a week, or whatever he did, for years and years and years, breaking illusion. Okay, we got that down. Let's try another one, And the next thing you know, he moved over to the Hacienda at the time. Or I remember, tickets were $14 to go see him. Okay? And he had an act. He built it little by little by doing his manip act and then breaking in an illusion. Right?
So he had something good he could depend on every time.
Correct. Look at Copperfield. How does this guy work? All right. I think Joni Spina, she passed away, which is unfortunate, right? I think she did pass away. I don't know. I hate to say that if it's not the truth.
I believe it
but
is.
Here's Copperfield's, or when he was touring, apparently this was his routine. They would have the illusion that they're working on for the television special on the stage. So they land in the city. They take that illusion off the truck first. They practice it while the crew unloads the truck and gets ready. So let's say they get in at Dallas at 10 o'clock in the morning. Practice all day. Go back at 5 or 6 o'clock to freshen up for the show. Have something to eat, and then the show comes. And when he turns his back on the audience, a little microphone he clicks. He goes, "Oh, the paint on this illusion needs to be touched up in this little corner, and don't forget to do this and that." And his back is towards the audience as the music is going. He's talking to somebody backstage that's taking notes. He turns around. The show is over. They bring the illusion back out and practice while all the other stuff is loaded onto the truck. By the way, this is all filmed at the same time. All right. Now, this is the same illusion over and over and over again. All right. This stuff is loaded onto the truck. Now, the last illusion, the one they're working on, is now loaded onto the truck, which is the first thing that's going to come off again when they get to the next city. Right. They sit in the bus, look at the video of what they've just practiced all day, of what they need to improve on, and then they go to bed. They get up the next morning in the next city, and it's repeated all over again until that illusion is perfect. Right. That's the illusion that goes on TV. And then now they start in with the next one. And they do this every single day. I mean, the guys did, I don't know, something like, 300 and something shows a year.
Yeah.
All right? So you want to work like that? Then you could be Copperfield. The guy's a billionaire, and he deserves every penny of it.
Right, and that's what it takes to be an entertainer. And one of the things, just to draw it back to the earlier conversation when we were talking about the internet, is it's all fine and dandy to learn all of your content on the internet and then to go back and perform and to teach all your content on the internet. But if the whole point of what you're doing is to be an entertainer, really the bulk of your time should not be spent consuming or producing content on the internet. It should be performing in front of the audience that you're going to be performing for more and being awesome at that.
That's correct. You look at James Brown. He had so much control. I believe there's a movie called James, right? I forget it. All right, that's a great movie to watch. Look at Prince. I mean, Prince not only was he a genius, all of the songs from The Time, Prince wrote. All the songs for Vanity 6, Prince wrote. All the songs for The Family, Prince wrote. All the songs for Maserati, Prince wrote. Plus his own music, plus other music. But that's just the music. Now get him on stage. What does he do? The lights, the jumping up and down. He wrecked his knees. He had no cartilage left. His hips were gone from all the dancing and the jumping on the. He couldn't do the splits anymore. He was on fentanyl to take away the pain. I mean, this guy at the gates of heaven, he says, "Well, what else you got for me?" God looks at him and says, "What else do you got for me?" He goes, "Man, I don't have anything left. It's all down there and it's on the stage. I left it there."
Yeah.
He told the time, he goes, "This is not good enough. You guys got to move. You have to go back and forth. You got to dance. You got to get, not only does the music have to be just perfectly done, you got to be able to move. You got to do something exciting for the people to see. You don't just stand there and strum your guitar and sing into a microphone. No one comes to see that. He said, it has to be better than the record. It has to be."
A friend of mine I was speaking to at a party the other day said that he saw James Brown about 6 months before he passed, and he's old and like in his 70s, but he's still rocking out as hard as he can, to the point where during the interludes during the song he had to run over to the drum kit and huff oxygen just to stay up there and get through the show, but he still gave it 110% even though he was
Right.
obviously
Yeah.
not well.
Absolutely. That's an entertainer. That's what the guy did for a living. He probably didn't need to make 10 more cents,
No,
right?
of
He
course
didn't need
not,
any
right.
money. But that's part of his fiber. That's what made him a star. That's what made Prince a star, all right? Unless you're in the, look at Elvis. Elvis had a beautiful voice, but he was also in the right place at the right time, all right? But Prince wasn't. The guy had to get a demo and jump on an airplane and go to New York to try to get signed.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody realized, but there's plenty of geniuses, musical geniuses out there that you'll never hear about because they don't have that drive and determination. Look at Madonna. Madonna has succeeded in reinventing herself time and time and time again through the in her age of the sexual stuff, and then she matured a little bit, and I don't care about her political stuff and all that. We just take the career of an artist. All right. Now, in the 80s, it was brilliant music for the 80s, and it just continued on. It was topical. It moved with the times. Otherwise, she could have been like many of her 80s contemporaries and a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
And she didn't stay famous because just because she's Madonna. You know what I mean? Like it
Well, she
took
stayed
work.
famous because she is Madonna, because she worked at it every single day.
Exactly.
With
That's the
a
point I'm trying to
relentless
make.
determination. Now, when we get to magic, most people do. The reason why we don't have this is there's two things. Number one, there isn't a ton of money in general to be made out of it, right? How many magic stars can you name as opposed to how many music stars can you name?
Right.
Or actors that make a serious amount of money,
Right.
all right? So there's not a lot of energy that's being pushed into magic, all right? However, if there was a serious amount of money, not only would we see better entertainment, but we'd also see a lot more creativity, and the art would have moved forward a lot faster.
Yeah, there'd be
right?
schools and stuff. There are, but there'd be more schools for magic and people really, coming together to work towards it, just like in any other art.
Right. So when we look at it from the standpoint of a guy that consumes, or a grower that consumes information and data or whatever off the internet, they're looking at it from a standpoint of it's a hobby for me. It's not a profession. Whereas these entertainers that have made it really big, let's take, again, I don't care if you like them or dislike them, Siegfried and Roy, Chris Angel, Lance Burton, David Copperfield, David Blaine, whatever it happens to be, these people work at it 24/7.
Yep.
And that's what it takes. And that's what it takes to be awesome. And if you want to be awesome, then you need to put in that type of work. And I think just as a counterpoint, but I think a little bit of motivation to what you said about magicians, although I agree that there's not a lot of place for magicians to get those hours in, to be up and coming like there is for an actor or a musician or something like that. I do think, and I've expressed this before on the podcast, that to make a splash as a magician, is way easier than making a splash as an actor or a comedian. Because actors and comedians wait in lines for hours with people that look just like them, or they do like comedy night after comedy night after comedy night, and they bail over and over again to get good material, and very little magicians do that process. You know, magicians like to slap a really high price tag on what they do and then go perform something for the first time on stage. You know,
that's true,
like lunatic. So I think that while you know, no one's doing what, like, magicians aren't doing for magic what actors are doing for acting and comedians are doing for comedy. If you do, you will fly way past the pack faster than you could ever imagine. You know, if you actually double down and work the way that an actor or a comedian works to get the types of gigs that they do, you don't see comedians get a Netflix special and suck.
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't happen. The people that get Netflix specials, the comedians who get Netflix specials, are the cream of the crop of the ones who are performing at the best theaters, who are the cream of the crop of all the guys who didn't even make it to those theaters, let alone the ones who are performing at those theaters but not good enough for someone from Netflix to call and say they wanted a special, you know? So in magic, we don't have that kind of ranking. We don't have that. There isn't a theater that magicians all perform at and that there's like headhunters at. It doesn't go like that. You can just put in the hours, and the good news is we're welcome at comedy clubs. We're welcome at talent nights. You know, we're welcome at coffee houses.
Mic.
Right.
We can
open mics.
Have an audience, right?
We are more likely than not gonna go on stage and be I don't want to say funny, but I'll say entertaining in a positive way. You know, most of the magicians that I know, and I know a lot of them do like the mystic kind of stuff, but most of the magicians that I know are trying to be fun and entertaining, which means that you're welcome on most stages. You know?
Yeah.
And there's no excuse not to start putting in the hours of getting a great act if that's what you want to be doing.
If you want the stage time, then you go and you go on stage and you do it. You can do it for free and perfect it. You work all day long. For example, let's say it's a newspaper tear. You get all the mechanics down so that you can do it in your sleep, right? Then you get your presentation and you go do it in front of people every single night that you can, and eventually work it all out at open mics or here, there, everywhere. Don't worry, you won't run out of people to entertain.
And I think that is an approach that that is one that magicians should keep in the front of their mind. Everyone seems to think that it's a problem of scarcity. You know, everyone's all worried that
the magic scene is dead.
Yeah, or worse. I always think it's so crazy when magicians bitch about other magicians undercutting their prices, because I just think like there's enough people performing magic that there's enough people to buy in every group. There's people that want to spend $50 on a magician. There's people that want to spend $5,000 on a magician. And when someone decides that they want to spend $200, they're not stealing the gig from the guy who's charging $500. They're just the type of person who charges $200, and instead there's another guy who charges $500, who will pay $500 for the. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, I as far as like that's concerned, all the foundation of what we're talking about is to just get good. And when you get good, you don't have to worry about it. When they come after Jack Nicholson, they don't say, yeah, well, you know, there's so many people that can do it just like him.
Right.
But they really can't, right. You know. Granted, there isn't a ton of money on the local, you know, magic level in comparison to what you're doing in a movie.
Right.
But I'll tell you another thing, too. A guy like, I was at a restaurant the other night, and Leonardo Decaprio, I happened to sit next to him. And I looked over, and I go, oh, that's Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, looked over like I could touch him. That's how close he was. We had a burger counter together. And I looked at him, and I said to him, you're underpaid. You know, I think he makes like $20 million a picture. I said, you are underpaid. And he goes, you know what, I was thinking that myself. Right? But the reality of it is that he is underpaid. Right. The odds of you becoming a star at that level, that's a top A-lister, okay? in relation to the amount of money that you're making at $20 million a picture, you're being underpaid.
For sure.
You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, totally.
All right. So everyone, even at that level, for the chance that they took, everyone on every level is going to be underpaid. So you don't worry about it. But there's more of an opportunity to make money doing magic, believe it or not, than there is acting.
For sure.
You know how many shows I've got calls. Oh yeah, we have this remake of Xanadu, and I went into the Warner Brothers lot, and they cast me right there. They go, we want you to play this particular part. I forget what it was, and they go, it's an equity waiver. It pays $5 a performance. I said, all right, you know what? Not a worry, but I just can't work on Sunday because I've got this magic gig that I do every Sunday. This was years ago. If you can get an understudy to do the Sunday thing, I'll do the others for nothing. It would cost me more in gas to get to the theater. And they said, no, you got to either do it all or nothing. And I turned them down.
Wow.
I said, just for one night, you can't get. But that's the kind of money you make acting.
Right.
Yeah, and there's so many more actors out there that are trying to come and get those gigs from you, right? Like it's even the low paying
absolutely.
ones, there's a lineup out the door.
You guys do not understand the competition and the amount of times when I look at a commercial and a guy comes on, he says one line. There were 100 people.
Yeah, not only were there hundreds of people, there were 100 people who were already looked exactly like that guy, right? So not only was it wasn't 100 people of all different nationalities and backgrounds all together waiting in line having a fun jamboree to see who's gonna make it. It's not like that. No. It's you looking around like a brown beard. Right. You looking around like you're in a hallway of frickin' mirrors and you're like, does everyone here look and sound just like I do? You know, it's like the scene in iRobot, you know? and then they go, I'm sorry, you didn't get the part. Like token white male with black hair. They don't even say you didn't get the part. You never get a phone call. Right. It just goes, whatever goes into the ether. You look at what you auditioned for, and there's the guy that got it. Right? So what I'm saying is the crux of all of this is that there's so much more potential in magic for you to become a celebrity that if you just put the work and time in, and here's the great part. It doesn't really matter if it's in the real world. Even within magic, to end up being a John Cornelius or to be a Martin Nash or to be somebody that can take their creativity and put it together and just become well-known or an icon or a legend or whatever in magic is so much easier than going into the mainstream arts like music or acting. And when you love it, when it's a part of your fiber, we shouldn't be having these discussions. We should be having all kinds of like people that are bringing so much, a lot of diversity as far as character and presentation to magic that it's not even funny. Rather than waiting for every 5 years somebody to come around and blow us away at FISM and end up touring the world. And I think that's an open-minded approach, where you're able to see that as magicians we have this big, huge world of opportunity in front of us, and obviously at the low levels, there's not a lot of hanging fruit. Magicians don't get commercials, but it also means that we're not waiting in line in front of other people's. The gigs are as far away as us trying to get them,
Correct.
And there's just some hours of work in between us and the success. And the other thing that I wanted to touch on, which is something that Carolyn Ravin brought up that I thought would be worth bringing up now, was that she said, and this was more on the topic of talking to newspapers, but she said, like, what we do as magicians is fantastical. People want to, being a magician is interesting and exciting by nature. Right? Like, we're doing magic for people. We're performers. We're entertainers. And we should be treating it as such. And I'm bringing it up to use as an example on what you're talking about, which is to say, like, being a magician is kind of cool, right? It's fun. It's entertaining. It's interesting. And you can reach tons of people by doubling down on it, right? By, being a magician. Expressing.
Who is this person that you're talking about?
Carolyn Ravin. Do you know who that is?
I have no idea.
So she's
She's right.
She is. She's incredible, and you can find her on everywhere online. She's a very talented magician, but you can find her on Instagram with a lot of followers, and it's because she does a great job of reaching out, and she makes all the newspapers and all the journals and all the everything because she reaches. Yeah, she reaches out to these people, and she says, the first time she made a journal, she reached out and she said, "I quit my job to become a magician."
Right.
Well, fuck, that's the headline. That's the whole article.
Yeah, why not?
Right?
And the other thing too is that people get the other thing is people will stop you. What do you do for a living? I'm a magician. Oh wow, show me something. And then they think to themselves, I'm not working. I don't get paid. I get paid to do this and this and that. That is the exact. You wouldn't ask if you met Al Pacino. You wouldn't say, "Hey, can you reenact that scene from Scarface for me?" Right? Right. But the truth of the matter is that it's a different art form, essentially. You should always have something on you, and something that's strong, again, that you're very well rehearsed at, that you can amaze somebody and change their life there, right then and there. And don't say, "Oh, I'm not doing anything today. I don't have anything with me." You should be able to do that. That they're like, because it is like what you said, that or Karen Robin or whatever.
Carolyn,
it intrigues people. Oh, you're a magician? Oh, yeah. Here, let me do something real quick for you.
Yeah, it stops people dead in their tracks that were a magician. And then they drop their jaw and they look at us and they go, "Magic? That's amazing. Can you show me something?" And we go, "Sorry, I'm not performing." Like, what? Like, these people, like, what? Like, people are moved by just the notion that we're going to do magic. And instead we go, "Sorry, I don't have the thing on my wrist, so I can't do anything."
Yeah, that's like going to a nightclub or whatever, and you're this girl, and she's so excited to be with you, and this and that, the other thing, and then all of a sudden, when you go to she walks away.
Yeah.
Boom. Right? I mean, come on. You don't want to do that to somebody.
Exactly. We have to double down on what we do.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, there you go. Go ahead.
You're a performer. Perform. And it's salesmanship is a lot of it too. You have to really sell. Like, for example, in the multiple card routine that I do. I mean, how much more stupid can a card trick be? 8 people select a card. You apparently lose them into the deck, and then you produce them. That's just stupid, isn't it?
Well, it's not 8 times harder than finding and losing one card. I'll tell you that much.
Right. It doesn't matter. But the idea is here: take a card, and then put them back, and now look, I'm going to find them. But you can't shuffle the deck. Here, I'm going to do this and this and this, and cut here, there, bop, 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 da, 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 bop. Is that your card? Yeah. Oh wow!
Big
Wasn't
surprise.
that amazing? It's ridiculous. It's stupid. I do a multiple card routine, right? But I'm standing there going, "This is just ridiculous. How retarded can these people be to see entertainment in this, right?" But it is entertaining. The way that you produce the cards and stuff like that, it's fun. If they're convinced, again, back to reality, if they're convinced that the cards are really lost in the deck, when you find them, without looking, right, exactly. So then at the end, I asked the lady, I said, "What's your favorite number? Don't tell anybody what your card is. What's your favorite number? What's this?" Then I ask him a series of questions, okay? And I hand him the deck. I said, "So now, what was your card?" It was the 5 of clubs. And you said your favorite number was 7. Deal 7 cards down, 7. And then they deal all these different numbers. And then the last card they put is their card, all right? But the build-up, all right, that's the most important part. Because I say to him, "Look, is there any way I could have known that your favorite number was 17? No. Okay. You did all the dealing, didn't you? You did this, you did that. I never touched the cards. You never told us what your card was." And then at the end, boom, there's the card, right? So when you're doing these tricks, part of the showmanship ability is salesmanship. You have to recap all of the impossibilities, but you have to do it in such a way that's entertaining. You can't say, "Well, and then we did this, and then I did that, and then you did that," and the monotone business of doing it. You have to show enthusiasm. That's level number one. If you show enthusiasm for what you're doing, look, folks, I'm going to show you something that's absolutely out of this world. And going back to what we talked about, you remember that feeling when you first got fooled by the trick. Mm-hmm. And then you say to them, you take that feeling and it comes back out from you. And so you remember that. You go, I'm going to show you something that's going to blow you away. It's going to be so fantastic, right? Watch this. And your enthusiasm is contagious. Now they're going to be like, what is this guy talking about?
Yeah.
Take a card. Now watch. Bum, 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 and then your signature, whatever happens, right? Whatever happens. But number one is enthusiasm.
For sure.
If you're enthusiastic about what you're doing, the audience members will too.
For sure.
Right?
People, just like the audience learns to look at what you're looking at, they will engage in what you're engaging in. So
Correct.
When you go on stage and you're bored by the material, and one of the things that we always vouch for on this podcast is you're doing magic. What you're doing is by nature impossible. So please don't be boring. Please don't be boring about what you're doing in your performance, either up close or on stage, because even as much as we make fun of how silly and dumb it is that you're putting a card in the middle of the deck and it's coming back to the top, all I understand, right, it's impossible. It breaks all laws of physics. So for you to be bored by it makes it very hard for an audience member to be entertained to the level that you would want, because they don't even because they don't even understand how impossible it is, because you're treating it as normal because it's obviously normal for you because you know how to do it. Do you know what I mean?
That's correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You think those people get on stage like Prince? Do you think that he liked performing his music? Right? Imagine he was just bored with it as he just sits there and dun 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 dun. You know, dearly beloved. Again, I got to sing this song. You know, it's Shaka Khan when you have her sing "Ain't Nobody." She said, "I love to sing "Ain't Nobody," and she sung it, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of times, if not thousands. And then you look at a guy like, I forget the guy's name, but he's from the Flock of Seagulls. And they sing that one song, Iran, okay? And I remember that song. Yeah. And you see him interviewed, and he goes, oh, I hate playing that song. I can't stand playing. Now, when I heard that, when I saw him on Face the Music or whatever, I thought to myself, now, every time I listen to that song, that comes into my mind, that guy hates performing it. And every time I listen to Shaka Khan, I think to myself, boy, she pours her heart and soul into that song every single time. It's a joy for me to listen to that song. It means so much more to me now that she loves performing it, right? So that's what you have to be Shaka Khan. You have to go in there and you have to say, oh my God, I can't wait to show you this stuff. Marvin Roy is that way when he does magic. Here's a guy that was touring all over the world. Mr. Electric performed for the Queen of England, did a performance for her. He was the Copperfield of his time. Then I see him in my early 20s. We did a week together at the Magic Castle. And he did the early, I did the late, so I could see his shows. You would never seen a guy more enthusiastic when he goes out there, and it is infectious, okay? So that, to me, is number one. You love what you do, and it shows in everything that you do, and that galvanizes people to you. And that will change you. You change by changing what's between your ears and how you think about yourself, how you feel about what you're doing, and what you're saying. It all happens in your mind.
Unreal. And I think it's true. I think it's all about, like you said, what's between your ears and your dedication and passion, and whether it means expressing your passion by just working on the damn thing every day, or whether it means expressing your passion by just being so passionate on stage when you perform the material that resonates with you. And like you said, you're acting very excited to show this material and all this stuff, but you're not acting. If you've done your whole life right and your career right, you should be excited to entertain these people so they can get the feeling that you've spent your whole life making sure that they get, right? So if that doesn't excite you, I don't know what the fuck is going to about magic, because that's basically the whole point, right? So
that's correct.
So I think it's really, really valuable to keep in mind, being excited about what you do. One of the things that we do when we get to the end of the episode, when we start to wrap up, is we each go around, the three of us, and we mention something out of the episode, regardless of who said it, that we think is particularly important for somebody listening. Sort of like a take-home point, because we've been talking for over an hour, and we jumped on a lot of different stuff, and I think it's always nice to distill something. So for me, I think that one of the most important moments, and it was almost just the way that you said it, was when you mentioned the bit that you were so excited to add to your act, and the fact that it was not a bit about magic. And I think that that's something that everyone can take from. You know, people are thinking about their acts, and they're thinking about adding the magic moments, and then there you've got someone who's thinking about the entertaining moments, right? And is thinking about saying, wow, I just thought of this really exciting, entertaining thing, and I'm so excited to entertain my audience with it, instead of being like, oh, I just learned a different place to put my pinky. Like, who gives a shit? So I'm really, really moved by the fact that, you know, you're digging into your effects, into the world of entertaining them. I certainly think that we can all do to stop buying tricks and whatever it is, stop buying more methods as to how to do magic and just start getting great at something. So for me, I think that was a really big point for me. Tyler, what about you?
There was a few things that I really liked. One I loved, I don't think it was quite expressed this way, but it's how I'm going to express it now, is you don't have to treat magic like a hobby. You can treat it like a real passion. I mean, there is no shame in being like, I love magic and I love studying magic and I want to pour my heart and soul into it if that's what you want. I know I felt that way when people were like, oh, do you want to be a professional magician? And I was like, I don't want that title. No. But I think that but I always wanted to be a good magician, and the only way to be a good magician is to legitimately care about it and do it. And the other thing I wanted to mention ties into that, which is the not only care about the magic that you perform, but like care while you're performing it. Like have the actual performance be something you're excited to do. Because if you're just waiting to get the performance over with, the one person who wants it over more than you is your audience. Like they do not care if you don't care at all. So those were the two things that stuck out with me.
And of course, David, what did you think was the most important thing if you were to distill it from this episode? Doesn't matter who said it.
Well, number one, there's three things, and I'll make it very, very quick. Number one, passion. Passion. Number two, give 100%. Go 100%, right? And number three, get out there and perform constantly, all the time, as much as you possibly can, with as little material as possible.
And I think it's incredible advice. And I think what it is it's this turn from the world of consuming more tricks, consuming more knowledge on the internet, getting into these endless rabbit holes of conversations on the Magic Cafe or whatever, versus producing, performing night after night, doing your show, learning your bits, coming up with new things. Like, the dichotomy between, you really have to think about how much of your time is going towards consuming and how much is going towards performing. And none of the best performers ever spent more of their time consuming than they did performing, right?
It's 99%, 1%.
Exactly.
Performing and consuming.
So I think that
on a professional level, very little changes ever.
And I think that's like a totally important point that everyone needs to
they're just missing it. Like,
yeah,
crazy.
Like, everyone's worried about, they're like, that's how I did in the last show, but maybe I'll do something completely different this show. No,
it's like, that didn't work the first time I tried it. It's gotta go. Let me buy a new thing. And it's like, that's just not even close to what's gonna make you a good magician.
Right.
Despite
Absolutely.
doubling down. Well, thank you so much. I think it was a really valuable episode for people at home, and especially giving them some things to work on, and some, honestly, just the kick in the butt that anybody needed to go start doing whatever they've been not doing. Because really, I think what we've broken down more than anything is that the process is down to the repetition of just doing it, and forget everything that anybody says. You'll know best after you've put in 3,000 hours of the same trick,
Oh yeah, absolutely. without a doubt. If somebody has to tell you to do these things, maybe magic isn't right for you. No, and look, there's nothing wrong with that. It can be a hobby. You can love to sit and just listen and read the history of it, or know the methodology and this and that and the other thing. But when it comes to performing, there's only one way to get good.
Right.
And we talked about that already. So there's different areas. There's the history of it. People go to the conferences. A guy like Steve Freeman doesn't like to perform, just likes to practice. Hey, you know what? There's an area for you. There's not a problem. But when it comes to performing and you telling people that you do magic, I think you're, by virtue of the fact that you're putting yourself in that category, now you have to raise the bar. You've got to be out there. You've got to be performing. An amateur, they say, is someone that does a different show for the same people, and a professional is the one that does the same show for different people.
Exactly.
So, anyway, find your audience. There's plenty of places to perform. Perform for free if you have to, and do it over and over and over. Give 100% and do everything with passion.
Well, there you go. I think that is very, very fitting. If somebody had no idea who you were before this and now they are finding you, where should they look on the World Wide Web to find you?
Wow. There's a lot of places you can look to find me. I would say that davidmalek.com would be a good start. It's just my performing website, or markedcards.org. It's called the Marked Cards Organization. I sell a lot of gambling equipment and stuff like that on there. If you're into juice decks or books like Steve Forte's books are on there that I sell. You can find me there. You could also go to doublegeorge.com is another website of mine that sells the 10-card poker deal.
Everywhere, really, we can find you.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere, man.
Well, the only other thing I'll say is since the convention, I've been following you on Instagram, and you have some shots of people going absolutely ballistic to you doing magic. Oh, yeah. And I don't know how you got them. I mean, I know how, by being great, but I've never seen whoever your photographer is or whatever's going on there. It's awesome. So I think people should just go check it out just because it's crazy. It's like 10 photos in a row of people with just the widest open mouths I've ever seen. It's like they were trying to catch jelly beans being flown through the air.
Yeah, you can get that on Facebook under David Malek, M-A-L-E-K. Those pictures are on there as well. Everybody has their own shtick on Instagram, and I kind of found it by wanting to do something a little bit different. I give my phone to a bystander and just have them take pictures as I do magic, and as I perform, and we get some really, really cool shots. But and I'm getting a lot of people asking the same question. How in the world do you get shots like that? I think it's important, to capture those moments, whether they're going to be for you or to share with other people. But that's kind of, that was something a little bit different that nobody else was doing on Instagram that I decided, I'm going to start. And there'll be more. Next week I'll have more, and then the week after that, a couple weeks after that, I'll have more of these types of reaction shots.
Well, I'll tell you, I love it, and for sure keep it up because I think that it's fun, and it reminds me of how people react to your magic. So it's very, very exciting. And once again, big, huge thank you for coming on the podcast and chatting with us about
suffering through all the technical difficulties.
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties at the start, but
no worries, guys.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Jonah, Tyler, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And of course, to everyone at home, thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. And once again, you got through a full episode and we didn't talk about methods. So I hope you learned something. I hope you now know that you don't need to do more method. You're probably covered. You can just get out there and start performing. So there you go. And thank you so much. We will see you all on the next episode of Discourse in Magic.
Take care.
Well, there you go. There you have it. Episode 47 with David Malek. If I was to distill everything from that episode into one little nugget of information, it would be Go do your trick a bajillion times. When I say your trick, I just mean pick a trick that you like. Start making it your own. You'll find different things to add to the method. You'll find different things to add to the performance. You'll find different jokes. You'll know how to land the moments. You'll be better at the pacing of performing the effect. You'll be better at pauses. You'll change the words that you use to be the best words for the job. But those things happen with iterations and iterations. So once you've put up the work up front, once you've learned the trick, maybe done some scripting or understood the premise or whatever the case may be, it's time to do it for real people over and over and over and over again. And that is how you create an amazing act. So there you go. That's my little nugget from this conversation. If you like this episode, feel free to check out more of David's stuff, especially his Instagram, if you want a good laugh at people reacting to his magic. And otherwise, head over to discourseinmagic.com, check out some of the blogs, the podcasts, leave a comment, and just feel free to tell us what you think. There's some big, exciting things happening for Discourse in Magic, and I want you to be a part of it. Later.